All right, we are live, people. And Jimmy, Henry, welcome to the Flapping Fish podcast, where fish flap and men become machines and dreams are lost.
Dreams go to die.
So we have currently no viewers, but there is a 10-second lag.
Yeah, that old chestnut. Yeah,
that must be it.
Honestly, there's a 5-hour delay. Hold on, let me find.
So how are you both?
Stop talking. I'm trying to share this on my page to get some people.
All right,
to view.
you be quiet, Henry. How are you, Jimmy?
Sorry.
Yeah, all right. I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I have. Let's see. We've got kids at home. A dog.
Your own
dog.
kids or just
my kids?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm all right. I've just work and yeah, it's busy, but it's good to be doing. I'm excited about this single coming out on Friday. It's been a long process, isn't it? And it's exciting to actually release a new Cruz song, first time in I don't know 3 years or something. Yeah. So, yeah. How are you guys?
Yeah, doing good. Yeah, it's been weird. It's been a weird journey down memory lane this last couple of weeks because we've been digging out old photos from the dim and distant past, from sort of 20-something years ago up to, times in LA and New York. And
I've noticed how like I've got progressively better looking as the years have gone past, and I've like grown about 1.5 feet in height as well. Pretty good.
I've noticed I've got progressively worse looking over about the last 7 years. But yeah, that's another story. Yeah, it's kind of harsh.
Yeah, it's been fun digging it out, though, isn't it?
Henry, you've also become really arrogant, I've noticed.
Yeah, you're not the only one to notice that. Sorry, Lord, so sorry.
So, look, wifey's watching. That's good.
Hello.
It's like a Flickr book of your life that you just watch from cradle to grave, and then it's just like, oh, that was it. Well, that was fun.
What's really weird is what's super weird is Hepworth sent all those photos in, and when you see photo for the first time that you didn't even know someone was taking, and you can't remember even where it is. I've had a few of those moments looking through, like what gig was that, or where was that taken? What were we doing? Why are we laughing?
Which set of bins was that photo taken by?
Yeah, one of our classic photo shoots.
Cool.
Jeremiah, you're a legend.
For people like Fezza and Hepworth that bother taking pictures, because none of us are very good at that.
Mark Leach.
Yeah. Mark Leach.
The Leach.
Yeah,
so how can you see? How can you guys see who's here?
It's should be on the right. So we've got Timothy, Kate, and your girls are watching. Hayden.
Hi.
Hewitt.
Hayden's.
Oh, my wife.
Lee.
Yeah.
Your wife.
Hello, darling.
Yes.
My wife.
I thought you meant no. All right.
We've got.
Yeah.
We did have 17 viewers at the height of our peak. It's now gone down to 15. So.
Oh, we lost 2. Oh dear.
Weak.
Come back.
The content is low, boys.
The content is low. So if anyone wants to ask us any questions, then just stick them up on the comments, and we'll try and respond to those as best we can. But yeah, so I bet our band's been a weird one. Henry, how long have you been playing with us?
I don't know.
I think you are our longest. Yeah, when you're out the band.
I'm your oldest bass player by quite a way, but That's because, like, probably not for the amount of gigs. We only do about 1 gig every 4 years, so I've probably only played 5 gigs with you. I don't know, man. It must be like
you played on Innocence, didn't you?
Zeke was born, right? So yeah, like 15 years, 14,
Yeah.
15 years, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so weird because you're totally the new
2005?
boy.
No.
The baby of the bunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's me.
Wait, 2007 was
Yeah.
it? We did that little
First
tour
gig
with
was
Police Fan.
Germany Love Festival. No, what was that festival? That family with the
But
Ballinger. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
That was good.
Neuer Mann
Yeah.
am Bass.
Neuer Mann am Bass.
So the weird thing,
sorry.
I think the reason you feel like the new boy is just that is because probably the longest we were more like a full-time band. When we had probably Nico, right?
Yeah. Doing the tours and stuff.
Well, yeah, just sort of having this as our main focus. And then I think, yeah, when we released Emancipation Day,
I'm like the equivalent of when Paul Evans joined Delirious. It all went down pretty quick.
you're Jason Newsted. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Sorry, Evans, if you ever watch this.
You might be watching. We love you, Evans. Just for the record.
Yeah. Insecure little guy, Evans. I hope that helps.
Right, let's see if anybody's saying anything. Where's my 10%? Says Timothy.
When are you going to get a better drummer? Thanks for that, Josh Turner.
That's harsh. Never.
Harsh.
We're never going to get a better drummer.
Hey, do you remember that time in Sweden when that girl was like,
Mark,
I love it when you guys are like really rude in your humor and you make me feel really horrible. Keep going. And like, really? Are you sure? So I love the sarcasm with you English guys, and then we made her cry about an hour later. We shouldn't do that.
Made her cry.
Do you not?
I've got a little visitor here.
I need to probably qualify that statement as well.
Lainey. Hello, Lainey. She's got a dolly. What's your dolly called?
Hey, Lainey.
Yeah.
Hey, Lainey.
Hey, Lainey.
Yeah.
How are you today?
Good.
Have you lost some teeth? Lost some teeth.
She's lost 2 here and 2 here.
Oh wow.
It's got an inverted cross.
No. Hey, so Marcos, I'm going to skip over that comment. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the song, the new song, and yeah,
Mr. Record Company guy. Look at you go.
Let's do the song story bit.
Jimmy slipped into his professional occupation.
Henry, it's only 5:15, dude. Slow down.
It's a can of Coke, man. I forgot I was live while I was drinking it. Sorry.
Yeah, the song. So I can't even remember when we wrote this, but yeah, it's been a weird journey for us in that
London,
studio
right?
in London. Yeah. So most of our songs, the sort of rocking ones, come out of jam sessions, don't they?
Yeah.
Where we just start playing.
Usually that one riff that we have as well.
That one riff. Yeah, so that that's how it started. I think we made a decision, was it last year, that we were just going to book in some writing sessions and just play together and just write some new stuff. And I think every time we got together, we've come out with something, some ideas. But yeah, I think that's how it started. Or else I wrote that riff, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, so
it's a long time ago now.
You turned up with, because you had the Stingray, Nick, didn't you, in that lap steel, and you turned up with the Jag.
That's right.
And it just sounded sounded really different. It's like, oh wow, I haven't heard you have that tone for years. It just was like really spiky and gnarly sounding.
Yeah.
And then we dug it out at the end of a rehearsal. Seem to remember. It's like the last thing we did. And then we just kept playing it. We were like, this is rocking.
Yeah, I think it was that feeling of like when you're up against it, sort of fighting back.
Yeah.
And I think as a band we've been through so many disappointments and setbacks and crazy moments where we feel like everything's gone and stripped away, and then it's like all of a sudden it rises again from the ashes. I could remember when we sort of parted ways with our management company, and we had this white van, and I had like a Les Paul that I was playing. You had a drum kit, and there was a bass and a load of flight cases and pedal boards and things. And we basically had to load it into the back of this white van.
Yeah.
And our manager
Dark day, wasn't it?
drove off
God.
with all the stuff. And it was like, it was so tough. Do you know what I mean? But then, do you remember you bought that kit off Paul Evans, and it was like we were back to all our basics again.
Yeah.
And that was when we decided, let's make our own album. That's when we made Emancipation Day.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was a mad moment where we got together in the rehearsal studio and we just played our songs, and it was like, oh yeah, we can still do all this. Because we actually walked away from a finished album as well.
Yeah, we did. That hurt, didn't it? Yeah. Weren't we booked to mix with that guy? I can't even remember his name, but it was all locked in, wasn't it? Do you remember
Something like that, yeah. In fact, Hayden Spencer's just asked, very timely. He said, I've always wanted to know if you have other recordings from the period you were working with Jason Cusaro before Emancipation Day, or other than the singles in the EP. Have loved every era, including the current one, but I remember loving that vibe. Thanks, dude. Well, yeah, there is somewhere an album, a lost album, but we used a lot of those songs. I think we used a lot of those songs on Emancipation Day, and we re-recorded everything from scratch because we didn't own any of the masters. They were all owned by our management company. So when we left that, we kind of left the possibility of that. But yeah,
they're all like lying on beds of money, rolling in it, because they kept that album.
Yeah, we spent 2 long weeks at Rockfield in Wales making that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Put a lot of work into it. Yeah, it was hard to.
I don't know how good it was though. I can't really remember what it.
Yeah, I feel like we weren't that excited about. We took some demos at Christmas and we were a little bit lackluster I mean, you know, just rough mixes, but there was something missing, wasn't there? With some kind of.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. The thing which was great that we did with Jason Cusaro was that first EP, Soul Collides EP.
Yeah.
That was something really opened a lot of doors and got on the radio, and there was something special about the vocals, the way that he captured my vocal and sort of produced me as a singer. He was really.
That was something new for us, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I've also been listening back to some of our early stuff, like Dust, some of those early EPs, which we were probably in our early 20s doing. You would have been a teenager.
Would have been 10.
Jimmy. Henry was still in the womb. So this is like 90.
We were bouncing on one knee.
96 or something like that. 96, 97, 98, we were doing stuff. And what's amazing, so I listened to C Red, a couple of bits of C Red yesterday, and vocally, it's so weak. Like my voice was just not developed in its as it has become, you know. And it's like listening back, it's a bit like, but the drumming and the guitar playing and the bass playing is really good. It's like, whoa, you know. I think my playing's changed, but it's like we did really well. You know what I mean? I think we. Do you remember recording that C Red EP?
Yeah.
Do you remember how many days we took to make it? Was it 3 or 2?
It was quick, wasn't it? It was that place in Barnet with Derek Fudge, right? And
Yeah.
I don't think we were dropping in. I don't think we were dropping in anything, were we? It was like,
No,
I
you just
remember him
played.
saying, like drums are unrepairable, and there was like loads of pressure, wasn't there, just to nail takes. I mean, we were pretty well rehearsed, but I remember being really nervous, you know, just
Yeah.
setting up in there, and it was
And
like
you
our
had.
first
I was listening to your kit. You had like a splash cymbal and a china.
China. Yeah, the Chinas were in then.
Do you remember on
Oh,
C Red at
gnarly,
the end?
man.
Yeah, man.
The intro.
That's so funny because I was listening to Verses recently, and there's loads of China on Verses. You know, "It's My Blood," that song. It's like
Who's
all
drumming
China.
on that album? Is that Matt Cameron?
No, it was way before him.
He
I
just
can't
did
remember
one
the guy's
album.
name.
Ryan's or something. Yeah.
I think he played on the Wallflowers album as well.
Yeah.
He was amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
drumming
yeah.
on that record's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So we were big influenced by Pearl Jam, weren't we? And just the grunge scene. And I think at the time,
You can
it
tell
had
by
gone.
the flannel shirt still being worn.
Yeah.
Horribly out of fashion.
At the time, it was like Britpop was in the UK,
Yeah.
and we just couldn't really get any love.
We took Pulp on and lost badly.
Yeah, they killed us.
I want to live like common people.
Wow.
And it was
Hey, look,
me and Skin were
Whitelock's on
chatting
board.
about. What's that?
Whitelock, yeah.
Whitelock's with us. Hey, man.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people now. Mark Brislin.
Hey, Mark.
Remember Mark
Yeah.
Brislin?
Yeah, man. Good to
I've
see
got
you
someone
guys.
I don't know, Ilya Hansen. When I first heard Not in the Fire on a lot of years ago, I thought it was Eddie Vedder with a new group. Yeah.
There you go, man.
Yeah, we've always, and I was convinced you were an American outfit. Well, we always loved American music, and specifically the grunge thing. So I guess that just kind of rubbed off, and the blues, you know. So yeah, man, yeah, it's cool. I think the first place where we ever kind of got any sort of attention as a band was the Czech Republic. And we sort of arrived over there in the early 90s or late 90s, maybe mid 90s. And it was like we were seen in a completely different light, and people just loved the music. And we weren't a bad band. We were an okay band. We weren't a great band, but we were okay. And it was quite an incredible time, really. Just sort of connecting, feeling the music connect with people in a special way.
It was a pretty mad time, like historically as well, and it's sort of like post-communist stuff, and there was all that stuff with Stuart Angus was doing stuff, and it's like loads of people coming to faith as well, and like for you guys to be a part, because I wasn't there at the time, but I was sort of like on the outside. I knew Stuart Angus, knew Graham Orden, you know, seeing a window in. It's just like such a exciting birthing time, you know.
It was super exciting, man.
Radical dudes.
Yeah. So for me, I was a brand new Christian, and I don't think I'd even been a Christian for a year when we went on that first mission trip. And I think I think that was one of the first places that I sung in public. I think so. And it was probably
Wow, what, that first tent mission?
Yeah.
Wow,
Because they
no
would just
way.
sort of go, it would just be like, whoever's up is up. Do you know what I mean? You're up now.
Yeah.
Can you do that couple of songs? So we would do sort of church songs. And then I think we did some kind of rock gig, Jimmy.
Deathmore definitely happened.
Deathmore happened.
On the homemade drum kit.
Yeah. Through Graham Ward's old amp.
Yeah.
And was it Phil Young was playing bass for us?
Phil Young. Yeah.
Phil Young.
Yeah. Playing Roosie's they were playing Mercy is Falling all the time. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
On repeat. Amazing.
And I just remember that mad thing of like playing. We used to play on the streets there. So you'd go out in the day and set up a little PA and a generator and play music. And just that sort of thing of like, wow, this is really, you would gather a crowd and then you would just sort of someone would share their testimony, you know, their story of the reality of God. And for me, it was like, wow, actually seeing people, because I guess in the UK, it's been so closed spiritually. People have been so resistant to, like, all my friends thought I was absolutely mental for talking about Jesus, you know. It's like, it was just, everywhere you went, there was just rejection, really, when it came to that. And then all of a sudden, we were in a different place. They'd come out of communism, they were looking, they were open, and it was ripe. And we just saw people coming, you know, not in their droves, but from sort of seeing nothing in England to all of a sudden seeing, oh, wow, this message is flipping powerful. And people are like, well, it's the first time I ever saw healing, you know, people getting healed and stuff like that. And children responding. Do you remember that, Jimmy? All those kids coming forward to respond. And then you would just see like the peace of God like landing on them. They must have been like Laney's kind of age, you know, 6, 7, maybe younger. I don't know where the parents were, you know.
He's getting hammered in the bars and stuff.
Yeah. But the funny thing was after that, the kids then brought all their parents, you know. Their parents were like, what the heck's going on in this big tent, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that 95, Jimmy? Or 96?
Exploso. Yeah. Yeah, it was great, man. Great time. And then we went back maybe a year later. And a year, like every year we went back for a while, didn't we?
Yeah. Sorry, there's a comment that needs to be read out. How do you keep your musical standard high with Henry on bass? That must be tough. Tom Cross.
Yes, young Thomas. He follows me wherever I go on the internet. He's a member of my congregation. And he will be dealt with accordingly from the judgment of the elders at the appropriate time. Twat! I love you, man. God bless.
Yeah, so then we got that. Do you remember our first cassette was called All or Nothing, and it was a full album on cassette. I don't even. Have you got a copy of that anywhere, Jimmy?
So I've got the little yellow one. You know that we
the yellow one. Yeah.
We had the little translation. Stuart Angus did the translation, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like a little. Yeah, I think I've got that somewhere. I don't think I have the original.
And we hand recorded them, didn't we? So you had a double cassette deck, and we duplicated them ourselves. And then
Auburn Vineyard Church office.
Yeah. Tim Hewitt's got a copy of All or Nothing. Cool. Awesome. We'd love to. We recorded that in Graham Ward's house while his family were in Canada.
Did Graham know?
Yeah, Graham was recording us.
So I'm sure I didn't leave these ditches in the sink.
We've been burgled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was amazing. And we just gave those away, didn't we? We just took out a load
Yeah.
and gave them to people on the streets.
Hewitt says it'll be on eBay later. 50p coming your way, mate.
Yeah, classic.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
a great
man.
time. And then we went back a couple of years later, and some of the bands that we'd met were really, really rocking with amazing gear.
Yeah.
And we were like, wow, we better shape up. I remember we talked about this recently, didn't we? But we went to see Ram Adonai sound checking at the first gig. This must have been like 98 or something like that.
98, yeah.
And we were like, right, let's take out all the weedy songs out of our set and we've just got to rock as hard as physically possible now. It was amazing though, wasn't it? It was a total you blew your voice out first night. And it's just those amazing little Czech clubs full of people, massive oversized PA. Yeah, so fun, man.
Yeah, and it was all very like basic gear and everything. It was kind of, and I remember one night getting electric shocks off the microphone. In fact, more than one night. And I was thinking like I might die. But, you know, I would do this.
You went through a phase of like every mic. Do you remember this? Like a few years ago, it seemed like every gig we went to, different. You just kept getting shocked all the time off a mic.
It must have been something to do with my gear.
You? Well, yeah, something's not earthed properly.
Blaming it on the Czechs.
Yeah. I'm sick of you guys and your rubbish shit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Adam Dickens is watching as well.
Hormone.
Hormone.
Oh, sorry, I've blown it again. Doesn't like that name.
Yeah. So any more questions? Keep them coming. Please be kind, Tom Cross.
Yeah.
No need to be mean.
Yeah. He thinks he can get away with it because everyone thinks he's like my annoying little brother or something.
Yeah, I assumed he was your little brother.
No, it's a bit of an embarrassment, really, that we share the same name, but never mind. What can you do?
With a fake profile.
What?
Is it Deborah? Masquerading.
Photoshops his face into like all my photos and stuff. It's getting a bit weird.
Shout out to Hepworth as well.
Yeah. Hepworth.
Yeah,
he's
Happy
like
birthday.
logging into the back doors of the Verra Cruz account somehow and commenting as us.
Yeah, I don't know. His powers are.
Change some passwords, boys.
Yeah, lots of friends here. It's good.
Yeah, man. So
tonight we were supposed to be playing in London.
Yeah.
But
obviously everyone and more were had their tickets bought already.
Yeah.
Half of them that are watching are just waiting for us to address the refund policy. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, so we've rescheduled, but it's very loose. So who knows what's going to happen to live music for a while. But we talk of October instead, but Rocktober. But yeah, it's just man, I was so pumped to get out and do some little clubs with you.
Yeah, me too.
Had a little run. Looking forward to it, man.
So
3
we
nights
are
away from the family. I was like, oh man, I can't believe I've lost it. Jimmy's frozen in a poise.
We've been asked, are you recording any songs remotely? Well, Tom Cross, you have at last come good.
Sensibleness reigns.
And
you might have to get Jimmy out and bring him back in again. He's frozen, so.
Don't worry about Jimmy.
Screw him.
We're going to record we're recording at the moment a live version of what's the song called? Like a Lion.
Like a Lion.
Yeah, and so hopefully that'll be ready either Friday or Saturday, depending on how long it takes me to put it all together. And how are we going to get Jimmy out of here? Let's just remove him.
Yeah, that's better.
Bring him back in.
Been telling you this. Oh.
And on that note,
what happened to you?
Timmy,
I had 3 spinning balls.
What can I say? Timmy says, how do you keep the friendship going, keep it real, and look out for each other? You're very good at asking questions, Timmy.
It's almost like they were pre-prepared.
While you think about the answers to that, I always remember Ed telling me this story of when Ed Carlisle was at a drum clinic. I can't remember who it was with.
Steve Gadd.
Was it Steve Gadd?
Yeah.
And Tim put his hand up to ask a question, and Ed was a little bit like, "Oh no, Tim's not a drummer. What's he doing asking a question of Steve Gadd?" And I think Tim's question was, "It's true that the greatest people never stop learning. Could you show us what you're currently learning, Steve?" And he just got massive respect from the whole room. And Steve went on to these amazing paradiddles and stuff. Yeah, there we go.
The
Steve
whole clinic went off in a totally different direction, didn't it?
Lord of the question.
It was amazing.
Tim.
Yeah. Like,
so as far as your amazing question, Timmy, we in a band, I think, especially when you're gigging, you spend a lot of time traveling, and so you get a lot of time to talk. And actually, since Henry come in the band, a lot of those chats have been really brilliant. So and just kind of,
it's funny, you're not the first to say that when I've come into their life, their conversation has just got better. So good to know.
Right.
Shut up, Chio.
The other thing is just bad humor, and you do get sort of cooped up together, so it's a bit easy to develop a quirky, irrelevant humor which is not funny to anybody else except for the 3 of you. And then you come back to civilization, and you have to relearn how to talk because no one knows what you're talking about.
We went through do you remember that season of
Snot
those 6 a.m. flights where we'd have to get to Stansted like 4 a.m. and fly out on Ryanair, and just as we're all falling asleep, they'd be like, "Ding dong! Here's bring around scratch cards and duty free and stuff."
Yeah.
And then we'd get to a venue, sound check, and then we'd have to play really late that night, and we'd be so sleep deprived that we'd just be totally losing it. The humor was like, we'd developed that really crazy, ridiculous, desperate humor that I think people thought we were insane. But I remember having a lot of fun. Those like really tired, hanging around, waiting to play.
What happens on the plane stays on the plane.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
A lot of stories, man.
Yeah. A lot of stories.
Too much coffee, not enough sleep.
Yeah. And then when we should have been going to sleep, you're wide awake and everyone else wants to go to sleep. No, I want to see the town at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Remember the tour bus with what's not Deep Project, and who's the band that we were supporting?
Crushhead.
Yeah, Crushhead, man. Tour bus tales getting into 24. 24?
Yeah. Hey, Joffus has got a good question here. Did you have band songs, albums that used as reference points when you were forming your sound as a band? Well,
yeah.
Joff.
No, we are completely original, Joff.
I think me and Jimmy, well, we were in a little band called Abednego, and I was the lead guitarist and Jimmy was the drummer.
If anyone can say who Abednego was, they get Bible trivia points.
Son of Nego. So I was the lead guitar player, and then I began to write riffs. So I think me and Jimmy used to have this little shed in the back of his garden where shed music was born. And we used to go and sort of have a jam in there and started coming up with riffs and things. And then when we played them to the other guy, the singer, who's a guy called Toby, he was like, I just don't, sorry guys.
It's not funky enough, man.
No, I can't sing it to this. And
Yeah.
I think we were writing like Death More was like this sort of
War
anti-war song. And then Jimmy and in fact your sister Jenny encouraged me to sing. And you were like, oh, you should just sing it. You should do it. And then after a while, we sort of became a 3-piece. So that when Toby left, or was he pushed out? No. When he left, we had a bass player, Jono, at that point, and
So John O. West, yeah.
Jono West, yeah.
Johnny boy.
Yeah.
And then we blah 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 blah. What did we do? Yeah, then we just started going out as a 3-piece, and it was just all of a sudden clicked in a new way, and it was like, wow, 3-piece.
Yeah.
This is rocking. So yeah,
Slap.
Yeah. Like the experience, and that's so many great 3-pieces, man. It felt like a new moment, didn't it?
He's
Oh,
relentless,
Tom
man.
Cross is back.
Oh, hi, Tom. Missed you.
should we block him?
Love it. I mean, Deborah.
Yeah, so influences were Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and then as we sort of developed our sound, probably lots of other influences have come in, but the blues thing's always been a big influence for me. So yeah, when me and Jimmy got taken to Nashville, we went for a day to Memphis. We rented a car, stayed with this guy called Pastor Bob Beeman, who used to
Big Bob Bean.
be
Is
the.
he still alive?
He is, yeah. He's
Yeah.
got a podcast.
He's unhealthy for a while, yeah.
He wasn't well, yeah, but he was a amazing guy, and he just let us stay in his house. We rented a car and drove to Memphis, and we found this little guitar shop, and that's where I found this 1938 lap steel guitar, and then began to kind of write around that, and that was something really like a defining sort of shift, probably which became the difference between Dust and Verra Cruz. Was when that thing arrived.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
When,
now
when every new song became New Steeler.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
New Steeler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So that's cool. And then lots of influences really, but yeah, I think nowadays I'm probably feeling freer than ever as far as style and genre, just to kind of do whatever. I think a few years ago when we kind of started up again, there's so much freedom. I think when you're younger, you carry such a weight of expectation. And we used to come under so much pressure, especially when we were looking for a record deal, looking to, get famous, and people were saying this and that, and you need to change this or that and do this. And then obviously now we are we've been independent for years, but I think all of us in different situations, we're not particularly looking to make a living doing the band. We've got families, and this is kind of a nice thing that we get to do in our lives of creating music. And yeah,
I remember recently when rehearsing with you boys and just being like, oh man, I need this in my life so much, just like you've got family hitting and work pressure and life and everything. It's just like I've got no outlet. I used to love playing football, and then with health and stuff, not been able to play football for the last couple of years. and just realizing, man, this is, I need to just rock the hell out hard, man. Like often, you know, like such a beautiful thing to just express yourself in that way, you know.
Yeah, totally.
So we got a couple more questions. Adam Booth, when's the next gig? Good question. We don't know.
It was today.
When's the lockdown finished? Is it easier being independent these days, as in getting music out there? Well, that's a good question. Allegedly, it's a good time to be independent. And if you know what you're doing, then yes. I mean, for years, we never looked for a record deal anyway. And we didn't need one because what we were doing was very just underground. And we only really sought that kind of later in our existence. We were very much we had quite a clear vision of what we were supposed to be doing, which was to go to places basically with the message of Jesus, where there would be nobody else doing that, and that was our thing. So that involved, we'd be quite open, often sharing that, depending on where we were and depending on the liberty sort of we felt to do that and the boldness to do that. And then we sort of moved into this. We were approached by this management company who was owned by a Christian guy who was reasonably wealthy, and he was like, "We need to get Christian music into the mainstream. We need to, you guys are really good. You should be heard." So then we got into this sort of management situation, and we changed our name, and we sort of got haircuts and that kind of stuff. And now it's, put us with different producers and showcases and all that sort of stuff. And that was just at the point really where the industry was taking this big dive. And it was like you probably remember this, but we'd meet these people, these contacts, and they'd be like, "Yeah, we really love the band. We really love what you're doing, but I'm probably not going to be in a job in 3 months." And it was just kind of, especially towards the end of what we were doing, it was pretty brutal. And then it was this thing of speaking to quite a few very high up music industry people, getting taken out, going and seeing them in New York, and just the things sort of being green light, and then gone at the last minute. And it just happened over and over again. Do you remember once Boothie, who was our manager, he called us all up and he was like, "Virgin are offering you this. It's happening, guys." And then it just sort of evaporated. So we had a good few years of that sort of stuff. And in the end, it just kind of, it sort of broke us. And when we split from that was when we then again went independent. But that meant taking a loan, making an album, and we signed a distribution with Fierce, which was a Christian label. And then we went all around. It's like this whole new world opened up to us of Christian music. And we had this guy, Jonathan Brown, just championing us, going,
JB.
that was like, yeah, JB. And he was the
Motley.
band that signed us was Delirious. So it was their label. And JB just went around all those festivals. He said, "If you want Delirious, you've got to have Verra Cruz." It was amazing. So all of a sudden we were like,
He's in our corner, wasn't he?
if you think of like from when we waved goodbye to that van with all those guitars and drums and stuff, we were back to our old setup. And then we took out a 10 grand loan. We made an album with Tom Mills and Paul Burton producing. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
And and we just went for it, and yeah, it was amazing. We got that Switchfoot tour, which somebody just mentioned, Andrew Robinson. And then at the end of that, Nico, who'd been our bass player, through that whole period, and had struggled quite a lot with health stuff. He left the band, and we kind of thought, well, me and Jimmy had this conversation where we still got gigs and we still want to do stuff. We thought, well, we'll bring in Henry, and maybe, if he can't do it, we'll bring in some other people. And then that first gig with you in Germany, we just had such an amazing time, such a laugh. And
I tend to bring that wherever I go, to be honest.
And the good looks. The
good
looks. Our favourite bass player.
Definitely Nico.
There's so many to choose from. Yeah. How could I possibly choose? It's like my children.
No, it's quite easy to choose. I think probably the most probably because of where we are in life, it's been probably the most fun and light having Henry here. But there's been, when Nico joined, because it was like he was a proper bass player, proper rock bass player. I'm not saying you're not.
No.
He had, from
obviously I took it up a level from that. So
the guy before was a guy called Josh Jones, aka Action Punk, and before that was Jono. Jono's season was really wicked as well. Josh did all that stuff in Czech with us. All these, we went and played in Latvia, played at Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Poland, Czech, Germany, and that was just an amazing season with Josh. And then when Josh sort of moved on, and we got Nico in the band. Nico had this like full Trace Elliott,
so 8x10, yeah,
and a rack and like a whole pedal board, and he just was playing a five.
Henry.
He had his own bass amp.
What's that? What is that?
He was playing a 5-string, and all of a sudden it was like we got really, really tight as a band, and it just he just was a great. He just brought something new. So he was on Invisible album. Yeah, everyone loved Josh.
It's so beautiful as well. That always helps. Anyway,
so Tom Cross.
Tom's asking sensible questions at last.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Yeah, but everyone did love Josh. There was lots of young ladies in the Czech Republic who were praying for Josh for years because he asked them to pray for him.
The Lord told a lot of them that they were going to be his wife as well.
Yeah. Years later, we bumped into one of them. How is Josh? I am praying for him every day. It's like, yeah, he's married. Anyway. Good times. Funny times. Yes, he did used to put bricks in his rucksack and run up mountains and empty bins. Yeah, and just for a laugh.
Sleep in ditches, didn't he? And
whilst doing a law degree.
Yeah, and passing the bar.
Yeah, he's doing good, man. He's just had another baby, actually.
Oh, so, good.
Yeah.
I've been in touch with him recently. He's doing well.
Thomas, the answer to your question is there's no money in recording an album or doing a gig unless you're huge.
The voice of
Yeah. That's why people don't have support anymore, man. They're more money for themselves from the live gigs, so they'll just play 3 hours to break it in.
Yeah.
Henry lays bricks, as Faulkner. I lay the bricks in Josh's backpack. Yeah.
Not anymore, he doesn't.
No.
Right. So, have we got any more questions? Got any more questions? What do you see in each other? Serious, encouraging question. Yeah. Good work, Tim. Who wants to go first?
Questions.
Mark, I see like this butterfly and like a rainbow over your head, and I'm not sure if that means anything to you, but sorry, it's not mocking. Idiot.
Right, I'll start then.
Okay. Are we doing that thing? The encourage
I'll
one
go
another.
round.
Or-
Well, I'll just say what. I'll start with Jimmy. But really, not a lot would have happened without Jimmy sort of pushing forward and pushing me and encouraging me to actually do stuff. So it would be Jimmy who would, oh, let's make a demo on the 4-track in the shed, and then that went to, hey, Graham, we should record in your house, or whoever's idea that was. Maybe it was Graham's idea. And then booking the C Red EP, booking that, finding a studio, booking the dates, and it was like, okay, we've got dates, we've got to finish the songs, finish the lyrics, get in there, rehearsals, booking rehearsals, all that sort of thing. And I think that was so booking gigs. I've booked a gig for this date, and so all that sort of stuff. Having that person, having that team is essential, really.
Mm.
And Nico was quite instrumental as well in a lot of stuff when we went back independent. So he would work hard booking flights, festivals, just that sense of teamwork was amazing. Yeah. And Jimmy, like, I love Jimmy's drumming. So that's pretty cool, really. There's something like quite amazing to play with. And I think when we reconnected and sort of did the Kingstock festival, it was incredible, the chemistry that was there. We hadn't played together for a few years, and we literally did one rehearsal and then played in the evening, and it was like, whoa, this is still.
Don't tell them James has just come online. We were rehearsing like for months.
Yeah, this is still something, something still happens when we play together. And I think you can have those kind of lies, can't you? Oh, well, I'm too old, or it's this, or it's that, or
we don't sound relevant anymore or something.
Yeah, but just there's freedom, I think, from all that. And then Henry, I really appreciate. We've touched on it already, but Henry is just like a real guy who, what you see is what you get, and I think that's what people really appreciate about you. That's what gives you so much strength as a pastor, because you are. I told you this last night anyway, but you are a safe
Say it
place.
again.
You're a safe place for people. Apart from being so arrogant, you are a safe place for people. And because you're real and you've been through things, you've been through difficult things, and that has shaped you, and the way you've come through that, and how God has, almost like least lightly, but you just
no, totally, yeah.
You kept going, you've kept going, and you've persevered, and God has done such an amazing work in you, and He'll continue to do that. And I think I've seen more, like when we hung out earlier this year, I could really see that change in you. And it's sort of, because I've known you since you were pretty young, it's kind of weird. Temptation is that I see you as still younger. Do you know what I mean? But actually, it's like you've grown into this amazing, husband and father and leader. So, yeah.
Carry on.
No, that's it. You ain't getting no more than that, mate.
I think coming off the back of that, I think the interesting thing for me is like I got to join my favorite band, right? Which is not many people get to do that. I remember being at Oakland College and just getting squashed in a mosh pit and like losing my shoes, and just like people puking on you and spilling beer and stuff, and just like man, when I was young, so I'm what, like, I'm 38. What are you, like 42 and 47?
Yeah, Jimmy's 47.
But like, so I would like go, like when there was a dust gig, it was like you're exciting for like the whole month up until the gig. And you go, and it was like the thing to do, man. I seen Claire Hickman's just come online. I remember going to a gig with her husband David and my other friend Matthew, and we were like three little geeky kids that went to a Christian school. Just went to this gig and we're like that. It's just like, what the hell's just happened, man? It's like a guy getting his head shaved on the stage, and like there's a mental, scary, terrifying mosh pit going on, and just like loving it by the end, just slamming. And so, like, to be able to play, you know, growing up loving Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Tad, Mudhoney, all of those bands, you know, and just to basically, it's like the keys to the kingdom sort of thing. And so, like, there's always been an element for me where I'm like you guys are like two of my best friends, obviously, but like you're role models for me, like, and I mean that. So, you know, like, I think that says a lot about me. But like to be able to spend time with you, Mark, you know what I mean? Just to hang out and just talk to you, like have, you know, wisdom and insight, and Jimmy as well. I like to share a room and speak of things we dare not mention, but like seriously, it's like for me, it's been formational in my life and just such an encouragement to have. Like, this is family, right? You know, to have this family, it's been a beautiful thing. So
yeah, that's right, man. Yeah, and I think I was saying to Mark recently that I think as I've got older, I've really appreciated. I think it's really hard being a front man and just being up front, bearing the weight of a band in a crowd. And it's, you know, me and you have a good crack at the back of the stage sometimes, you know, and I think it's a really different thing. I'll probably never know what it feels like to be on the other side, but yeah, it is a little family, isn't it? And I think that's the thing that's kept us going, man, is that we've really leaned in on each other at certain times and shared so many miles and so many fun experiences. And yeah, I think I remember what was it? Some famous band had a quote about respect the chemistry, and I think that's the relationship is so important, isn't it? For
if we're gonna sit like in three in a line on a Ryanair flight, we want to be liking each other and getting on. You know what I mean? It's not going to last otherwise.
Yeah, right. So
it's quite
yeah, go on.
No,
I didn't really have much to say other than I feel you guys have dropped some profound, like, I haven't got much, but I think I love playing with you. It's brilliant to play music with your close friends. You can't. And as I've got older, I've just really been so grateful for that, man. You know, like, I think if we'd have gone different routes and been hired guns, that's a different thing, you know, to be session players and to dot around in loads of bands. But there is something really special about being a band, feeling like you're a little family. And it's really hard to explain, isn't it? But it's a great thing. You know, precious sort of dynamic there.
People often say to me, they're like when I sort of say, "Oh, I'm in a band," and "Oh, yeah, we used to do quite a lot of gigs and stuff." And often people are like, "Oh, are you ever like gutted that you didn't make it big and stuff like this?" And I'm like, "Dear, I've got to be honest. Like, I just loved it so much. You know, it's like I'm so grateful. Like, at the height of it, we were like doing 2 or 3 gigs in Europe a week. You know, just constantly, like every week, just hopping on a plane, flying out in a hotel, hanging out with 2 of my best mates, playing music I really love and believe in. You know what I mean? It's like I made it. You know, that's it. You know, it's like screw maybe, you know, maybe I could have done with a bit more money, but yeah, whatever. But it's just like seriously, it's like you think about it in those terms. You're just like, who gets to do that? You know, who gets that in their life?
It's
That's
just
winning the lottery.
that's kind of a perspective thing, isn't it? Because you can it just any way with life, you can be focused on what you don't have or what you haven't had.
Yeah,
You
right.
can be thankful for what you have had
Yeah.
and what there is, you know, how amazing your life has been. And I think for everybody, you know, that thing of comparison is the enemy of joy, isn't
He
it?
does have shorts on.
Hey.
Sam,
And I remember,
No.
hello, hey buddy, how are you?
Good.
Rocking. You
Covered
tired?
in dinner.
Yeah. Yummy, yummy dinner.
See you later, buddy. Love you, boy.
I'm up.
Bye bye. It's totally blank
I didn't
Jimmy
get
there.
nothing.
I'll learn him later. Don't worry. He won't be making that mistake again.
I remember chatting to a bloke in Argentina, he lived like out in sort of out in the sticks of Buenos Aires, so kind of quite, you know, it would seem quite poor, you know, to us. It was like, yeah, it just seemed out in the middle of nowhere. And lovely guy. And I was chatting to him about Delirious because we were on Delirious's label, and he was just totally into Delirious. This guy, he was like, and he was like, wow, you know, I was saying about, oh yeah, well, I know those guys, you know, I've met them, and I sort of know them, you know. And he was like, wow, you know, Martin Smith, you know, he's really like made it, you know. And then I remember then having a chat. We recorded Innocence in Martin Smith's studio, didn't we? In his home studio,
It's good, eh?
which was amazing. Thanks, Martin Smith.
Mm.
And was very generous. And having a little chat with Martin and going, well, and he was sort of just completely unconnected, said, well, you know, that's probably why we never made it.
Mm.
And I was like, just thinking about that guy Pablo and the difference there, you know, in opportunity but also perspective. It's like where you sold, you know, thousands of albums and you got a home studio and, you know, you're known all over the world and people sing your songs, and it's like, but there's always more that could and it's not like it was a throwaway comment, but it was something that stayed with me as like, yeah, well, to some people they look at me and they go, wow, I wish I could, you know, I wish I was. And there's one of the things we learned just going to places like Poland and Czech when things were a bit harder for those countries, was like, as an English band, an English speaking band, we have so much opportunity.
Yeah.
And we already have this advantage. And it was this sort of feeling of like that. I think that was what was made us go, you know what, let's go for it. Let's try and get a deal. Let's try and, because we can and other people can't. So we would do a disservice to them if we didn't take these gifts and try and make the most of them and take these opportunities that we have and make the most of them, you know. I remember feeling that, seeing all these bands playing in Poland that were just amazing. They were so good, so different, had their own thing, their own sound, their own style, their own songs, stage presence, you know. And they were never gonna break it outside their own country, or maybe they would break it in a few places, but they weren't going to break it in England. And that was just the way it was, and they knew that. And so it's a weird thing, but you can always wish for something you don't have, and you always have the choice to be thankful for what you do have. So that's a happy life, I think.
I think that's one of the things I've found in this whole lockdown situation, man. It's been like, man, I'm so grateful, like, for a garden. I'm so grateful for a house that my family can be safe in, that's like big enough that we're not climbing over each other, you know what I mean? And before that, just being like constantly like, oh, wish I had this, wish I had this, wish I had that, and just think it's just like, like to shift in that way. It's a really good thing. It's like a quite a powerful thing.
It is. It's really healthy. Yeah.
An attitude of gratitude.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, some interesting comments coming on here.
ZZ Top are still going after 50 years.
Yeah, I just watched. There's a good documentary they've done on I think it's on Netflix. It's well worth a watch. Another three-piece.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
band, great guitar player. Well, just great band. Amazing,
Totally, yeah.
amazing band. Yeah. Neil Hibbs says, "Spare the rod."
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, made me laugh. Yeah. Don't worry,
Hibbsy,
I don't.
Neil Hibbs is an amazing, amazing guitar player.
Yeah.
Yes,
And a great bloke. In fact, I remember bumping into Hibbs in the queue in like Stavanger Airport in Norway or something. That was the most bizarre thing.
Oh wow, he's been doing a load of stuff there, hasn't he?
Yeah, big in Norway.
Big in Norway, baby.
Yeah. Can you go downstairs? I'll finish in a minute. Sorry, guys.
Hibbs, post a link to some of your music on here if you don't mind, and people can go and like your YouTube channel or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, you did Carnival of Lost Souls was the last album, solo album type thing. But yeah, it's kind of prog stuff, quite heavy but melodic. Right. Any more thoughts or questions from anyone? Because we're over an hour now. Well, let's just wrap up with.
It's been fun, dudes.
It's been nice to do this, and maybe we'll do it again in a while. But yeah, please support our single. Share it as the videos come up. Also, there'll be live. It's like exclusive live video tracks coming out all this week from one of our gigs, which are quite fun. So do share those around for us. Nip on over, subscribe to the Verracruz YouTube channel, and look out for the single coming out this week, "Like a Lion." And we're
When's
happy with
it out,
it.
Mark?
Friday, right, Jimmy?
Yes.
Jimmy has organised it for Friday.
Jimmy sounds thrilled about the whole thing.
No, I am. I'm really excited about it. I genuinely am. It's just.
It slams hard, man.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, I think it's. I'd love to do a few more singles this year. Maybe another one this year if we can pull it together. Yeah. So.
Do an album called the iPhone Recordings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Henry, Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks to everyone who has put little messages in. It's been good to have see some old faces. Just shout out to Jenny Shorey there, remembering our Czech trip, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks to those who are watching not live as well, because this is going up on YouTube too. So God bless, guys, and we're going to end the broadcast.
Bye, Mark.
Bye-bye.